Okay, here we are again, TK-20421, answering the question answers asked by you, my fellow Garrison members. Tried to come up with a cool way to do that. You know, I was on vacation and kind of brought you guys with me and did a few things. Now I'm here back at the compound, trying to get settled back in and get ready for the daily grind and the regular work schedule for next week. It's been busy. It's always going to be busy. But anyway, here we are. And, you know, answering questions and answers. I'll be doing a few edits and takes here and maybe kind of show you a little bit some of my collection and tell you the reasons why I'm in the 501st. You know, what led me here, I guess, one day I told my wife I was always, you know, one day I'm going to be a stormtrooper. One day I'll find out. You know, seen them at Disney and stuff like that, and of course in the movies. And one day I fell into the, you know, the Jedi robe trap and picked up a Jedi robe stormtrooper right out of the box. You know, got it out. It came on Halloween day. It couldn't have been more perfect. I mean, I suited up and went trick-or-treating that night. Man, I was a stormtrooper. And, you know, of course, I didn't do my homework first. I just automatically assumed I was going to be getting into the 501st Legion. They steer you in that direction. Wasn't the case. Of course, you know, the very next couple of days I spent tearing my hair out and wondering what the heck. I couldn't believe that I had done what so many people had done before me and fallen that trap. Anyway, we ended up beating the kid up and turning it into a death trooper for my son James, TK-20421, and he got the death trooper, zombie trooper out of that one. So that's the one we bury up on the hill. And so it's got a little story behind that one. And then I built this one behind me for him and, you know, multiple other costumes anyway. But once I found out about the 501st and found out what all was involved and all the cool charity things and just how much you could do for the community and just how much fun you could have, period, making smiles and raising awareness. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that? That'd be... So, you know, I got involved as much as I could with the Carolina Garrison and the forums and just kind of... now here I am, you know, the GML for the Carolina Garrison, and I feel like we do a really good job on the staff, keeping everything going, keeping the Garrison alive and growing. Just really excited to be here doing this with you guys and sharing our passion for Star Wars. Anyway, back to the questions and answers, and here we go. All right, the next question was, have I ever declined an applicant while in armor? No. The answer is no to that. I've never declined an applicant while in armor. I've only had to decline one costume in my entire, 3 years of being a GML. I only had to decline one costume, and one guy got fed up on the third try. He was just like, that's it, sorry, I'm out, no big deal. So that's it. You know what I find myself doing a lot in costume, though, is when I'm taking my submission photos, I'm working on the costume while in costume. I have several pictures of me doing last-minute alterations and gluing on last little bits. Oh, goodness sakes, it's hilarious. But, you know, it happens, and I strongly encourage that. Now, when you're taking your submission photos, always review your photos before you suit down. You know, scroll through the pics, look at them, make sure your photographer has everything right. All your armor pieces are, you know, perfectly nice and straight on where they're supposed to be. And then you'll have no troubles usually getting everything passed. But that's it. On to the next question. All right, the next question had a series of 4 questions to it. From Kenya. Thank you, Kenya. What are some of the stresses and the rigors of being GML? And just really the stress and the tough part, like I said, I mentioned before, was kind of going through the new costumes, the new CRLs, and kind of coming up with, the new ones, and going through the detachment leaders and just doing all the homework. That's the hardest part. Having to ask questions and these days, trying to give an immediate response, when you can, of course, safely. And she also asked what was the process of approval when I'm not familiar with the costume. So again, I've got to do all of that homework and go through the CRL and just read everything line by line. Take into account, hopefully there's a progress thread on your detachment where you can get all your other peers' feedback and detachment leaders' feedback, of course. That always helps, and I can go and just review that and keep just log everything down. So I think just really going through and reading everything and going over everything with each other. She asked my favorite and least favorite costumes to approve. Well, I think my favorite would be, a Stormtrooper or original trilogy, TIE Fighter pilot. Some of the, they're really easy for me to look at and just be like, bang, that looks right. I can just look at everything on here and tell you what needs to be where. Once you do it a few times, anybody can do it. It's really easy. Once you get to know the little subtle differences between the costumes, which of course I never knew until I joined the 501st Legion and realized, oh my goodness, there's 3 different versions of Stormtrooper for the original trilogy. Couldn't believe it. I was floored. I never knew that. So little things like that. About the new films, things that I dislike and like, and challenges that we may face. The things I like about the new films are that, they're kind of trying to pick up a new generation and take off with a new storyline. Things that I dislike about that is that they're trying to pick up the new generation and go off with a new storyline. But, that's what has to happen. Everybody needs to change and grow and evolve, and nothing lasts forever. I'm not going to be the GML forever. We're not going to be doing this forever, but hopefully as long as we can. And, we're going to pick up that new generation and give them the love for Star Wars. Teach them about the old movies, the old love stories, the old space opera. It's just iconic. So the challenges that I face are, again, all the new costumes. Oh my goodness, there are so many new costumes. It's unreal. And you guys are just doing such a good job keeping up with the detachments and making everything up to spec. All I got to do is sit back and watch and admire you guys. I'm really, proud to be part of your group. Some of the other questions, I think, some silly stuff. Where do you get the coconuts and stuff like that? And I tried, some of them. But you seen all them palm trees where I was down in Florida? I meant to get a darn picture of one of them where the coconuts came from, Matt, okay? That's where they come from. They come from big, high up in a tree. They pick them and you eat them. You drink them. Let's see. I'm trying to remember some of the other questions. I've got to keep going back and looking, so I'm going to have to make this video short. Okay, so there was 2 questions. One, if I wish that I could not approve somebody just because of their attitude. And, of course, no, there's no reason that I can do that. But, I do strongly encourage everybody to be able to get along and mind their P's and Q's with the group. That's easy. But no, there's never been a time where I wish that I could hold somebody back from approval. I always strongly encourage approval. Another question was about the process of getting, approved and then level 1, 2, and 3 certification. And we went over that before a little bit with some of the other questions. But again, once you get approved into the 501st Legion, then you want to level up. Say you're in the Mos Eisley Police Department detachment, the MEPD. You get approved as a sand trooper, so you get pretty much dispatched level 1 as police officer, and then you step up to or it's just deployed sand trooper, then you step up to police officer, then you would go to SWAT with level 3. So, and you kind of do that on the detachment. So once you get approved by me and you log in on the detachment and you fill in all your applications and you get full access approval, then there's threads on there where you can go for the level 2, and you would submit all your photos and specifications in a thread on the forum for level 2, and detachment leaders will review your application and give you level 2 if permissible, and then they will do level 3 if you apply for level 3, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty easy. And if you wanted to get involved with the process, I believe was part of the question, you could just get involved more on the forums and try to get into the staff position, help out with the staff position, give criticism and feedback on the forums, and just do some homework. It's pretty easy. Just get involved, stay active, get out and troop. Build costumes. You get tired of your costume, sell your costume. Your stuff's easily resellable. Get on the forum and get rid of it, buy something else and build that. Whatever you can do to stay active. Everybody's doing pretty good this year. Food drives and Make-A-Wish and donations and stuff like that. And that's what we're all about. Just having fun. We got new movies coming out. And so on to the next question. Okay, drum roll please. I think this is the last and final question. There's been quite a bit. Might seem a little monotonous, but we're going over this stuff and we're going to hash it out. Somebody asked why was some costumes have only level 1 approval and some costumes have level 2 and 3 approval. I think the easy answer to that is some costumes there's only a limited amount of knowledge that's known about the costume. So, some of the costumes we know everything about them, from the way they were put together to the materials they were used. A lot of the newer costumes are just based on video games, so there's only so far you can go with that. They also asked what was my favorite and least favorite costume to approve. I think I mentioned that earlier too, with my favorite being the original trilogy stuff. It's really easy for me, and brings that warm joy to my heart. My least favorite costume to approve, I think, are the ones with all the different layers that you really got to pick apart and be like, hey, can I see a picture of this? And hey, can I see a picture of that? The Kylo Rens, the Nihilists, some of the officers' uniforms, the new officers' uniforms with some of the fabrics that I'm not real familiar with. I've got to be like, hey, do you got the basket weave that you're supposed to have? And they're like, yes, it's the basket. But I just got to make sure. And so those are my least favorite ones to approve because I have to kind of pick them apart. What do I like from the new movie? The costumes that I like coming out, man, the new Snow Trooper's pretty cool, and the new Flame Trooper. The Praetorian Guards, they're pretty cool, being red, kind of like the Royal Guards. The new officers' uniforms look pretty spiffy. The TIE pilots, of course. Gosh. Otherwise, there's not too much that I don't like about where everything's going. I'm really excited to see the new Solo movie coming out. Everybody's, all up in arms about it. And I try not to feed into too much of that mumbo jumbo on the interwebs. I read it and laugh at it like everybody else, but not that big a deal, man. If I miss Luke, I have to say I probably did really get pretty sad when they took Luke out like that, and Han and everybody. They're just killing everybody off. Leia. Gosh. So anyway, thanks again for having me. I'll give you guys maybe a little brief tour of my layer here. Let me straighten it up a little bit. I'm trying slowly piecing everything back together. Anyway, if you have any other questions, don't hesitate to give me a message on Facebook or the forums, or email, carrier pigeon. Anyway, you can get a hold of me. Anyway, you don't see me again, I'll be up in the friendly skies.